Hello, Art Survey. Today we're going to draw the Domas Aurea. You will just write this in pencil, but I'm doing it in marker so that you can see it. Domas Aurea. And that was Nero's palace. And if you want to write Nero's palace down here, you can, because it's on the test. It was also called the Golden Palace. Domus is Latin for domesticated. I mean, that's where we get the word domesticated. It's from the Latin. Aurea is the Latin version of the word area. Now, the first thing you will do is fold your paper in half, and I've already done that, so I have a fold right here. On each of your tables is a column that I made. I'm going to put my finger here, and then I'm going to put this right on the fold, and I'm going to trace around it. Oops, first I'm going to get off the pencil right beside it. This is made with tag board, which is like a manila folder, and the reason we use that is because it's stiff enough that you can trace around it. Okay, from the bottom of the page, you're going to measure up 4 inches. And I want you to measure both in the middle and on each side. And the reason we do that is to keep from it being uneven. Sometimes if you just lay your ruler down, it will not be even. So we're going to line that up, make sure we have those 3 marks on 4 inches, and then we draw the line straight across. Okay, the Domas Aurea had what was called reflecting pools, and these pools were lined with columns like this. Now we're going to come down 1/4 of an inch, and let me turn it to this side so you can see what I'm doing. And I will come down 1/4 of an inch, which is about here. And you want to mark it again on all 3 sides to keep your piece even. You don't want any crooked lines. Let me make sure I got it in the right place there. Okay. Now we're going to lay our ruler down and make sure that it is straight here on the sides. I always line up my ruler with the edge of the paper. If your paper is rough, because my helper had a little bit of trouble cutting it, I can always recut it. Now you're going to put a series of patterns along here. These would have been made with ceramic tile, and that's called a mosaic. So one popular design was this kind of swirl, and we're going to repeat that. So why don't you pretend like you're making a wave in the ocean and come directly across making that. Now the year is 68 AD. And AD says Anno Domino. So Anno is where we get the word for annual. That means yearly. So then again is Latin. The Romans, they are all over our lives. They may have disappeared as an empire, but they hang on to our everyday life and our understanding of things. They were the first to create arenas. They were the first to number and letter seating so that if you sat in row A, seat 24, you knew where you were sitting. The Romans did this from the first time. They knew how confused humans were, and they tried to make everything clear. So we're putting that pattern all along our reflecting pool. In the Roman times, they didn't have eyeglasses, but people still had trouble seeing sometimes. So we want to make sure that our people don't accidentally fall in the reflecting pool. Now I'm going to turn my column upside down, and I'm going to make sure the bottom of my column touches the tip of the one I've already drawn, and then I'm going to make it reflect. I'm going to again put it on the fold, and I'm going to trace around it where it is in the water only. Don't go across the concrete. This is a concrete walkway, and I will show you pictures in class about that. Now we're going to go 2.5 inches sideways, if it'll let me here. I got too much stuff here, but okay. Let's say you couldn't get over that far. So you're going to have to measure. So from 4 to 5 and 5 to 6 is 2, and then in the middle is half. So I'm going to make sure that I'm even. So how far up would I have to go? I would go 1/4 of an inch. Love those 1/4 of an inch. Now, because I measured from this corner, I'm going to put this like this, and I'm going to put it here like that. Make sure it's straight. Don't let it get crooked. And you want to make sure it lines up with this. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit. And then I'm going to draw a line here, tracing where my round part of my column is. And I'm coming down. And I'm coming up. Now, did a terrible job there, didn't I? Well, that's all right. We're going to again touch the column base, make sure it's lined up on the sides, and we're going to reflect it in the pool. And we're going to do that on the other side as well. Again, we're going to go over 2.5 inches, I believe it was. I should probably write that here. Please don't write it on your paper unless you're going to erase it, but you can put 2.5 inches over, okay? You won't have room for, I don't think you'd have room for another one. No, you don't have room for another one. Let's go this way, 1, 2.5. So that's that, and then I want it to be even with the bottom of these two. So I make sure my ruler is on the bottom of those two, and I draw a little line there. This is exactly how engineers figure out things for drawing plans for buildings. And architects use this. You have to have measurements so that the builder knows where to put stuff. Now, we don't have room for any more columns. Actually, these columns, there might be 30, 40 columns along there, but we're only doing 3. Okay, we're doing it upside down in the water because, as you know, water reflects. So if you were walking along here, you could see your head upside down in the water. All right, we're going to the back of it, and we're going to go up 2 inches from there. So, because this was a pretty wide walkway, maybe we'll go up 1 3/4, yeah. I'll put it over here so you don't get confused with the column things. So we're going 1 3/4 inches. So what you're also doing here is learning how to use a ruler. And that's an important thing. So we can mark it in 2 places, and as long as our ruler lines up with the side there, we should have it straight across. If you find it isn't straight across, you need to remeasure. Don't draw real dark, so if you want to change your mind, you can. So there's our walkway. Now at the top, we're going to put an ionic column, capital. And the ionic capital looks like a cinnamon roll. It goes round and spirals inward. So we're doing just like this, and we're doing it in 2 directions. Does it have to be perfect? No. I'm not looking for perfection. If we needed it to be perfect, we would make a pattern. We're going to make one over here. But I do want you to know that these are ionic columns. And then between the 2 cinnamon rolls, we're going to put a double line. And this had what would be like an upside down U or a half moon. The columns start out very simple in the Greek culture. The Romans take the columns as they do, and they work with them into everything. So the Romans don't always invent so much things, but put it together. Now, Rome is called the city of 7 hills, so we're going to put some hills in the background. Make sure the hills are softly curved. We do not want very pointy kind, just make them slightly curved. And you can do that. Now, we're going to put in cypress trees. I like to call them corn dog trees because that's what they look like to me. And they're going to look like this. And do they have to be perfect? No, there's a bump here, so Then we put its root, and the next one is slightly smaller, and it's slightly behind. And that's called overlapping. And we're creating distance that way. So we're going to take it up, and then we're going to keep going up until we get to the top of the hill. So there's that. Now, another way to show distance is to have something get narrower as it goes away from you. So we have this walkway that gets narrower as it goes up, and then we will put in a structure. Now we're just going to draw that temple we've drawn before so that you feel confident that you can do that. So it's a square, but we're going to have it behind the hill, and then we're going to have a triangle here, and it's going to have some columns, but you can just hand draw those columns because they don't have to be perfect. But remember that you have to have an even number. They'd never have 5 or 3. They'd always have 4, 6, or 8. And then we're going to put a triangle or an echo line inside that roof, and then we're going to put a series of little tiles on the roof so that you get very confident about how to draw a temple. You don't have to put the details like you did on the title page as far as deciding whose temple it is. We had decided on the front that it was for Apollo. This doesn't have to have that kind of notification. And then you can put a little doorway here, and that gives you scale. So we know that a person would be quite small there. Now, for those of you who are very confident, if you want to draw a Roman soldier here, that's fine. Here at the side, we are going to draw a dagger. When the people of the city of Rome got really, really tired of Nero, the Praetorian Guard, which is a lot like the Secret Service, decided to do him in. And when they approached him, he took out his dagger, he stabbed himself, and he said, "Such an artist dies in me." So here is the blood coming down, and it's falling into the water. Okay, we're going to put a pot, or an amphora, as they say in those days, in front of this. Now, I have patterns in school, but if you're not in school, you're going to have to draw it yourself. So I'm drawing it here to make you see what it looks like. You are not going to have a see-through pot, so when you color this, you are going to color this and erase the lines of your column inside. We do have some patterns for furniture if you want to put those in. We also need to put in fluting. Use your ruler and draw lines from those little half moons that you drew downward like this. And you can put a hook at the top, and it often had a hook at the bottom, and that is called fluting. Now, does it have to be real dark and obvious? No, because it was there to make it look more elegant. A flat column just isn't very elegant. So they would put this hook, and then they would come down and just draw it. And it would wedge outward. Notice that the column here is slightly wider at the bottom than it is at the top. That was something the Greeks figured out. They figured out that if they would make them slightly wider at the bottom than the top, they look straighter. I know that sounds funny, but it's what they decided to do. So I'm going to put some hooks here, and then I'm going to put in my fluting. Then you will color the page completely. That means you color the sky, you color the grass. One of the ways that I do it is put yellow here, and then I put blades of grass on top of it fairly tightly together. Yes, it takes a while to make it, but in order to get a good grade, you've got to put in the time. It's like everything else. If you want it nice, you got to spend some time on it. So you can see how the fluting, does it have to be straight and perfect? No, I don't care. That's not the point of it. It's to understand architecture, which is what we're doing. We're studying architecture and Roman culture. And the Romans really love their fluting. So I'm going to do this. on here. And I think I'll put another one right here, and it will go into the side. Okay. Now we're going to put a base on those columns. It will look like this. Come around. You just follow the bottom of the column. When I get to the pot, I stop. Maybe I'm going to make that bottom a little bit wider on the pot, but that's all right. I can add a different color to that and emphasize that. So here we go. So this is a very simple, and we want to put some fluting in the water, but we're just going to sketch those in because it's in the water and it's not going to be as obvious as it is on the actual column. All of this. And this is the one place you don't have to color completely. You can make it soft. And we're going to go sideways on this as far as coloring, and also on the sky. The grass needs to come up in blades like that, but I would undercolor it with yellow. You can shade just the center of these with a pale blue, and then you can put decorations on the pot. That would make it more realistic, and make sure that your amphora has an opening at the top. You could put fancy hooks on the side. I don't know. And this might, if you want to have a wine glass spilled on the side. Maybe Nero was out there drinking wine when they decided to take him out. So have a little spill there. Because that's the creativity part. We know that they've taken the body away. Now, there are people that are very good artists within each class. And if you want to have Nero laying there, fine. But think about it and do a good job. Don't just knock something out. And that's all for today. And we will look at finished products later.